Good day everybody, Timmy here. Have you ever needed to implement the code to authenticate with OAuth yourself in JavaScript? It's absolutely no fun, but often the only way to get personal data from sites like Facebook, Twitter or YouTube. In an app it's even harder. You can't store cookies and there's no URL for the OAuth service to call back to. The Windows Runtime contains some classes that can help. But before we dive into the code to get authenticated with YouTube, let's have a look at how the authentication with YouTube actually works. First, let's see how it works when we don't have a refresh token yet. This means you have to enter your credentials to get one. We start by requesting an access token from YouTube. YouTube responds with a login screen where you have to enter your credentials and review the type of access you grant YouTube. The credentials and confirmation are sent back to YouTube. YouTube responds with an authorization code. You then need to exchange the authorization code for a refresh token and an access token, which YouTube will give you. You need to store the refresh token because from now on you can use that to get a new access token. With the access token you'll have access to your personal data. The next time you use your app and need to make a call to YouTube, you'll need a new access token. You can use the stored refresh token and set that to YouTube. YouTube will provide you with a new access token, which can be used to get your personal data from YouTube. Note that you'll have to go through the same process when the access token expires and is no longer valid. You get a new access token with a new expiration. Now let's switch over to Visual Studio and run the demo application. I placed a button on the screen that triggers the call to YouTube to get my personal activities. When I click the button, I get the login pop-up since it's the first time I'm getting the data. I enter my credentials and allow access. I get my activities. Now when I kill the application and run it again, I do not have to log in again and get my activities right away. So, how does it work? In the default JS file, I'll handle the click event of the button. In the handler, I create a new OAuth object and call the connect function. When the promise fulfills, I get the access token and use that to make the call to YouTube. This is a normal AJAX call where I place the token inside the header. These URLs you have to call to get data from YouTube can be found in the documentation from YouTube itself. There's a link in the description below to that. The connect function is far more interesting. Let's see how that works. In the constructor of the OAuth class, I make a call to retrieve the refresh token from the password vault. In this function, I first create a new instance of the password vault. It comes with the Windows Runtime. I retrieve the OAuth token for the current user. I chose both of these myself. I'll take the password from there and return it. If the credentials cannot be found, the stored token variable is still undefined. Thus, there's no token available, so the user needs to log in. I added a comment with the function call to remove the credentials from the vault. This is mainly for debugging purposes, so you'll have to log in again the next time you run the application. Then, the connect function. I wrap the whole thing in a promise so I can do something with the result of the connect function when it's done. In there, I check if a refresh token is available. If there's no token, I call my authenticate function. This function too returns a promise. I grab some stuff from my config. This config contains some URLs and a client ID and the secret from YouTube. I can't give you mine, but I added some links to more information on how to get your own. Back to the authenticate function. I set the scope of my authentication. This is what the user grants access to. I create two URLs using the Windows classes and make a call to the authentication broker. This class from the Windows Runtime is for setting up single sign-on connections and is the heart of the authentication. This shows the user login window. When it's done, you get the response with the URL containing the authorization token. But you'll have to extract it yourself. I do this by removing everything except the token. I use the result to fulfill the promise and have the connect function handle the rest. In the connect function, the authorization token is needed to grant the application access. So the authorization token is passed to my grant function. I use some of the config again in the grant function and use that to make an AJAX call. The serialized data function here just creates an ampersand separated query string containing these fields. I use the grant type authorization code here. This tells YouTube I want to use my authorization code to grant access. I also need to specify the exact content type of the call. If all goes well, YouTube returns a refresh token and an access token. Back in the connect function, I store the refresh token in the password vault and use the access token to fulfill the promise I created at the beginning of the function. In the case of the connect function being called with the refresh token available, all I need to do is use that to refresh the access token. The refresh function is almost the same as the grant function, with two differences. Instead of the authorization token, the refresh token is used, and the grant type is set to refresh token. When this is used to make the call to YouTube, a new access token and a new expiration time are returned. I then fulfill the promise of the connect function with a new access token and can get my data from YouTube. I don't have to store my refresh token in the vault in this case, because it's already there. And that's all. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. See ya!